The Battle of Mulhouse or Mulhausen, also called the Battle of Alsace, which began on August 7, 1914, was the opening attack of World War I by the French army against Germany. The battle was part of a French attempt to recover the province of Alsace, which France ceded to the newly formed German Empire following France's defeat by Prussia and other independent German states in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870. The French occupied Mulhouse on 8 August and were then forced out by German counter-attacks on 10 August. The French retired to Belfort, where General Bonneau, the 7th Corps commander, and the 8th Cavalry Division commander were sacked. Events further north led to the German 14th and 15th Corps being moved away from Belfort in a second French offensive by the French 7th Corps. Reinforced and renamed the Army of Alsace under General Paul Pau, began on 14 August. The Army of Alsace advanced cautiously. As part of the main French offensive, the Battle of Lorraine, by the 1st and 2nd Armies into the province of Lorraine. The French reached the area west of Mulhouse by 16 August and fought their way into the city by 19 August. The German survivors were pursued eastwards over the Rhine and the French took 3,000 prisoners. Joffre ordered the offensive to continue, but by 23 August, preparations were halted as news of the French defeats in Lorraine and the Ardennes arrived. On 26 August, the French withdrew from Mulhouse to a more defensible line near Altkirch, to provide reinforcements for the French armies closer to Paris. The Army of Alsace was disbanded. The 7th Corps was transferred to the Somme area in Picardy and the 8th Cavalry Division was attached to the 1st Army, to which 2 more divisions were sent later. The German 7th Army took part in the counter-offensive in Lorraine, with the German 6th Army, and was then transferred to the Aisne in early September. Background: Belgian military planning assumed a German invasion that other powers would eject an invader. This did not lead to France and Britain being seen as Belgian allies, and Belgium intended only to protect its independence. The Anglo-French Entente had led the Belgians to perceive that the British had come to see Belgium as a British protectorate. A Belgian general staff was formed in 1910, but the chef d'état-major General de l'Armée, Lieutenant General Harry Youngblood, was retired on 30 June 1912 and not replaced until May 1914 by Lieutenant General Chevalier de Celiers de Moranville. The new Chief of Staff began planning for the concentration of the army and met with railway officials on 29 July. Belgian troops were to be massed at the centre of the country, in front of the National Redoubt of Belgium, ready to face any border, while the fortified position of Liege and fortified position of Namur were left to secure the frontiers. On mobilization, the king became commander-in-chief and chose where the army was to concentrate. Amid the disruption of the new rearmament plan, the disorganized and poorly trained Belgian soldiers would benefit from a central position to delay contact with an invader. The army would also need fortifications for defense, but these were on the frontier. A school of thought wanted a return to a frontier deployment, in line with French theories of the offensive. Belgian plans became a compromise, in which the field army concentrated behind the Geta River, with 2 divisions forward at Liege and Namur. Schlief and Moltke plan German strategy had given priority to offensive operations against France and a defensive posture against Russia since 1891. German planning was determined by numerical inferiority, the speed of mobilization and concentration, and the effect of the vast increase of the power of modern weapons. Frontal attacks were expected to be costly and protracted, leading to limited success, particularly after the French and Russians modernized their fortifications on the frontiers with Germany. Alfred von Schlieffen, chief of the Imperial German General Staff from 1891 to 1906, devised a plan to evade the French frontier fortifications, with an offensive on the northern flank which would have a local numerical superiority and obtain rapidly a decisive victory. By 1898 to 1899 such a maneuver was intended to rapidly pass through Belgium, between Antwerp and Namur, and threaten Paris from the north. Helmut von Moltke the Younger succeeded Schlieffen in 1906 and was less certain that the French would conform to German assumptions. German strategy would need to become more opportunistic, and Moltke modified German plans to make them less rigid to enable this, making the offensives of 1914 the opening moves of what was expected to be a long war with no certainty of victory. Moltke adapted the deployment and concentration plan to accommodate an attack in the center or an enveloping attack from both flanks. By adding divisions to the left flank opposite the French frontier, from the sea, 1,700,000 men expected to be mobilized in the west here. The main German force would still advance through Belgium and attack southwards into France, and the French armies would be enveloped on the left and pressed back over the Meuse, Aisne, Somme, Oise, Marne and Seine, unable to withdraw into central France. The French would either be annihilated or the maneuver from the north would create conditions for victory in the centre or in Lorraine. Plan 17. Under Plan 17, the French peacetime army was to form 5 field armies of c. 2 million men, with groups of reserve divisions attached to each army and a group of reserve divisions on each of the extreme flanks. The armies were to concentrate opposite the German frontier around Epinal, Nancy and Verdun-Mézières, with an army in reserve around Saint-Menehould and Commercy. Since 1871, railway building had given the French General Staff 16 lines to the German frontier against 13 available to the German army, and the French could wait until German intentions were clear. The French deployment was intended to be ready for a German offensive in Lorraine or through Belgium. It was anticipated that the Germans would use reserve troops, but also expected that a large German army would be mobilized on the border with Russia, leaving the Western Army with sufficient troops only to advance through Belgium south of the Meuse and the Sambre rivers. French intelligence had obtained a map exercise of the German General Staff of 1905, in which German troops had gone no further north than Namur, and assumed that plans to besiege Belgian forts were a defensive measure against the Belgian army. A German attack from southeastern Belgium towards Mézières and a possible offensive from Lorraine towards Verdun, Nancy and Saint-Dié was anticipated. The plan was an evolution from Plan 16 and made more provision for the possibility of a German offensive through Belgium. The 1st, 2nd and 3rd armies were to concentrate between Epinal and Verdun opposite Alsace and Lorraine. The 5th Army was to assemble from Montmedy to Sedan and Mézières, and the 4th Army was to be held back west of Verdun, ready to move east to attack the southern flank of a German invasion through Belgium or southwards against the northern flank of an attack through Lorraine. No formal provision was made for combined operations with the British Expeditionary Force, but joint arrangements had been made, and in 1911, during the Second Moroccan Crisis, the French had been told that 6 divisions could be expected to operate around Maubeuge. Declarations of war at midnight on the 31st of July, the 1st of August. The German government sent an ultimatum to Russia and announced a state of Kriegsgefahr. During the day, the Turkish government ordered mobilization, and the London Stock Exchange closed. On the 1st of August, the British government ordered the mobilization of the Navy. The German government ordered general mobilization and declared war on Russia. Hostilities commenced on the Polish frontier. The French government ordered general mobilization, and next day the German government sent an ultimatum to Belgium, demanding passage through Belgian territory, as German troops crossed the frontier of Luxembourg. Military operations began on the French frontier. Libau was bombarded by a German light cruiser SMS Augsburg, and the British government guaranteed naval protection for French coasts. On the 3rd of August, the Belgian government refused German demands, and the British government guaranteed military support to Belgium should Germany invade. Germany declared war on France, the British government ordered general mobilization, and Italy declared neutrality. On 4 August the British government sent an ultimatum to Germany and declared war on Germany at midnight on 4 to 5 August, Central European Time. Belgium severed diplomatic relations with Germany, and Germany declared war on Belgium. German troops crossed the Belgian frontier and attacked Liege. Prelude. German preparations. In 1908 Moltke began to alter the plans for operations on the left wing of the German armies to face France and allocated the 14th Corps for the protection of Upper Alsace and several Landwehr brigades for the security of the Upper Rhine. Subsequent plans added forces to the region, and by 1909 the 7th Army had 3 corps and a reserve corps, with 2 corps from Wissembourg to Savin and Strasbourg. 1 corps on the left of the Rhine from Colmar to Mulhouse, and the reserve corps on the right bank of the Rhine. The 6th Army was to assemble between Metz and Sarrebourg in Lorraine, which massed 8 corps on the left wing, which with fortress garrisons and Landwehr troops, changed the ratio of forces between the left and right wings from 7-1 to 3-1. Moltke added forces to the left wing after concluding that a French offensive into Alsace and Lorraine, and particularly from Belfort, had become certain. The 7th Army was to defeat an offensive in Alsace and cooperate with the 6th Army to defeat an offensive in Lorraine. After 1910, the 7th Army was to attack with the 6th Army towards the Moselle below Fruard and the Morthe. Provision was also made for the movement of troops to the right wing of the German armies, by reserving trains and wagons in the region. The deployment plan for the Western Armies west here allocated to the 7th Army under the command of General Oberst Josias von Heering and the 14 and 15 Corps, the 14th Reserve Corps and the 60th Landwehr Brigade to deploy from Strasbourg to Mulhouse and Freiburg and Breisgau, and the command of fortresses at Strasbourg and Neuf-Brisach. The 1st and 2nd Bavarian Brigades, 55th Landwehr Brigade, Landwehr Regiment 110 and a battery of heavy field howitzers were also added to the army under the provisional command of the 14th Corps commander. In 1914, the 14th Corps near the Swiss border guarded the frontier with the 58th Brigade, and 15th Corps guarded the border from Donnen to the Rhine-Scoff, with several infantry regiments and Jaeger battalions, with some artillery and cavalry. The mobilization and deployment was completed from 8 to 13 August, but the German troops were concentrated further north than anticipated, to be ready to meet a French offensive from Belfort, by making concentric attacks from the north and east. French preparations. The 1st Army mobilized with the 7th, 8th, 13th, 21st, 14th Corps and the 6th Cavalry Division. The 7th Corps, with the 14th and 41st Divisions, a brigade of the 57th Reserve Division from Belfort and the 8th Cavalry Division, was detached from the 1st Army on the 7th of August for independent operations in southern Alsace. An attack into Alsace would begin the redemption of the lost provinces, and demonstrate to Russia that the French army was fighting the common enemy. Bonneau reported a large concentration of German troops in the area and recommended delay, but Joffre overruled him and ordered the attack to commence. Joffre issued General Order No. 1 on the 8th of August, in which the operation by 7th Corps was to pin down the German forces opposite, to attract reserves away from the main offensive further north. Battle. A few border skirmishes took place after the declaration of war, and German reconnaissance patrols found that the French had a chain of frontier posts, supported by larger fortified positions further back. After the 5th of August, more patrols were sent out as French activity increased. French troops advanced from Gérardmer to the Schlucht Pass, where the Germans retreated and blew up the tunnel. Joffre had directed the 1st and 2nd Armies to engage as many German divisions as possible, in order to assist French forces operating further north. The French 7th Corps with the 14th and 41st Divisions, under the command of General Bonneau, advanced from Belfort to Mulhouse and Colmar, 35 kilometers to the northeast. The French advance was hampered by the breakdown of the supply service and many delays, but seized the border town of Altkirch, 15 kilometers south of Mulhouse, with a bayonet charge. On the 8th of August, Bonneau cautiously continued the advance and occupied Mulhouse, shortly after its German defenders had left. The First Army commander, General Auguste Dubail, preferred to dig in and wait for mobilization of the army to be completed, but Joffre ordered the advance to continue. In the early morning of the 9th of August, parts of the 14th and 15th Corps of the German 7th Army arrived from Strasbourg and counter-attacked at Cernay. The German infantry then emerged from the Hart Forest and advanced into the east side of the city. French command broke down and the defenders fought isolated actions before pulling back as best they could, as the German attackers exploited their advantage. Mulhouse was recaptured on the 10th of August and Bonneau withdrew towards Belfort. Further north, the French 21st Corps made costly attacks on mountain passes and were forced back from Badonville and Lagardie, where the 6th Army took 2,500 French prisoners and 8 guns. Civilians were accused of attacking German troops and subjected to reprisals. General Paul Pau was put in command of a new army of Alsace, whereas the 7th Corps commander Bonneau was dismissed by Joffre. The new army was reinforced with the 44th Division, the 55th Reserve Division, the 8th Cavalry Division and the first group of reserve divisions, with the aim to re-invade Alsace on the 14th of August as part of the larger offensive by the 1st and 2nd Armies into Lorraine. Ruprecht of Bavaria planned to move 2 corps of the 7th Army towards Sarreburg and Strasbourg. Heeringen objected because the French had not been decisively defeated, but nevertheless most of the 7th Army was moved north. The Army of Alsace began the new offensive against 4 Landwehr brigades, which fought a delaying action, as the French advanced from Belfort with 2 divisions on the right passing through Daine-Marie at the head of the valley of the Ile River. On the left flank, 2 divisions advanced in cooperation with chasseur battalions, which had moved into the Fecht Valley on the 12th of August. On the evening of the 14th of August, Thann was captured and the most advanced troops had passed beyond the suburbs of Cernay and Daine-Marie on the western outskirts of the city by 16 August. On the 18th of August, the 7th Corps attacked Mulhouse and captured Altkirch on the southeastern flank. As the northern flank advanced towards Colmar and Neubreisach, the German defenders were forced back from high ground west of Mulhouse, on both banks of the Dollar and into the Mulhouse suburbs, where a house-to-house battle took place. The streets and houses of Dornach were captured systematically, and by the evening of the 19th of August, the French again controlled the city. After being overrun, the Germans withdrew hastily through the Hart Forest to avoid being cut off and crossed the Rhine, pursued by the French, retreating to Ensisheim, 20 kilometers to the north. The French captured 24 guns, 3,000 prisoners and considerable amounts of equipment. With the capture of the Rhine bridges and valleys leading into the plain, the French had gained control of Upper Alsace. They proceeded to consolidate the captured ground and prepared to continue the offensive, but this outcome fell far short of the support that the Army of Alsace had been expected to provide. The German 7th Army was left free to threaten the right flank of the French 1st Army, which moved troops to the right flank. On the 23rd of August, preparations were suspended as news arrived of the defeats in Lorraine and Belgium, and the next day the 7th Corps was ordered to move to the Somme. On the 26th of August, the French withdrew from Mulhouse to a more defensible line near Altkirch, to provide reinforcements for the French armies closer to Paris. The Army of Alsace was disbanded and the 8th Cavalry Division was attached to the 1st Army, 2 more divisions being sent later. Aftermath. Analysis. Troops in the first French invasion of the war had experienced the extent of German firepower and some of the flaws in the French army, which had an excess of elderly commanders, a shortage of regimental officers and deficient supplies of maps and intelligence. Despite tactical instructions stressing combined arms operations and the importance of firepower, cavalry and infantry were poorly trained and attacked swiftly, with little tactical finesse. The German 14th and 15th Corps had been diverted from their concentration areas and by the 13th of August, had been exhausted by battle and disorganized. The citizens of Alsace, who unwisely celebrated the appearance of the French army, were left to face German reprisals. The Army of Alsace was dissolved on the 26th of August and many of its units distributed among the remaining French armies. Bibliography. Books. Clayton. Paths of Glory. The French Army 1914–18. London. Castle. ISBN 0-304-35949-1. Doughty, A. Pyrrhic Victory. French Strategy and Operations in the Great War. Cambridge, Massachusetts. Belknap Press. ISBN 0-67401-880-X. L'Alsace et les combats des Vosges 1914–1918. Isle Ballon d'Alsace, La Vie Alarmande, La Route des Cretes. Guides illustrés Michelin des Champs de Bataille IV. Clement Ferron, Michelin and CIE. 1920. OCLC 769,538,059. Retrieved 13 March 2014. Humphreys. O. Maker. Der Weltkrieg. 1914. The Battle of the Frontiers and Pursuit to the Marne. Germany's Western Front. Translations from the German Official History of the Great War 1. Part 1. Waterloo, Canada. Wilfrid Laurier University Press. ISBN 978-15458373-7. Koenig, F. Battle of Morhange-Sarreburg, 20 August 1914. CGSS Student Papers, 1930–1936. Fort Leavenworth, Kays. The Command and General Staff School. OCLC 462,117,869. Retrieved 15 March 2014. Skinner, T. Stacker. Fitz M. Principal Events 1914–1918. History of the Great War based on official documents by direction of the Historical Section of the Committee of Imperial Defense. London. HMSO. OCLC 17,673,086. Retrieved 6 March 2014. Strachan. The First World War. To Arms I. Oxford. OUP. ISBN 0-19-926191-1. The Times History of the War 1. London. The Times. 1914–1921. OCLC 642,276. Retrieved 16 March 2014. Touchman. The Guns of August. London. Constable. ISBN 0-333-69880-0. Ting. 1935. The Campaign of the Marne 1914. New York. Longmans Green. ISBN 1-59416-042-2. Websites. The Battle of Mulhouse. MilitaryHistoryWiki.org. Archived from the original on 20 September 2008. Retrieved 24 September 2008.